What if the one Allah wrote for you has already entered your life, quietly, without making a sound? What if they've been standing beside you in silence while you were too focused on waiting? Allah doesn't always send your soulmate with fireworks. Sometimes it's in the gentlest moments that He gives His loudest signs. But here's the reality. Most people never recognize the one until they're gone. Don't let that be your story. In this video, I'll share 7 divine signs that your soulmate may already be in your life, and you never even noticed. Stay with me till the end. Sign number 5 might break your heart in the best way. Sometimes the most powerful sign that someone is meant for you is not how loud they say they love you, but how quietly they guide you back to the one who created you. They don't lecture you. They don't force you. But when you're around them, your heart remembers Allah more. Your soul feels a strange kind of ease, and without even realizing it, you start changing. Softly, silently, you begin to lower your gaze a little more. Your du'as become more sincere. You feel more conscious of your actions. Not because they told you to, but because their presence reminds you of who you were always meant to be. That's not attraction. That's not infatuation. That's what it feels like when Allah sends someone as a mercy, not a test. This person doesn't just impress you, they inspire you. They make you want to pray on time. They make you feel ashamed of the sins you used to justify. They bring out a version of you that you didn't know still existed. The version that wants to please Allah, to do better, to love more purely. And the most beautiful part? They never take credit for it. They don't even realize the effect they have on you, because they're too busy trying to become better themselves. That's the sign. Because a true soulmate in Islam isn't someone who completes you. It's someone who helps you complete your faith. And faith doesn't grow in noise. It grows in the quiet moments. The way you start craving tahajjud again. The way Quran starts to feel like a letter you've been waiting to hear. The way sin no longer feels sweet, because something deeper has taken its place. A soul that reminds you of Allah is a soul worth holding on to. And sometimes you only realize how much closer they brought you to your Creator after they've gone. You look back and think, I was a better Muslim when they were around. But maybe that's the point. Maybe their role wasn't to stay. Maybe it was to awaken something in you that you forgot. But if they're still in your life and your heart feels lighter, purer, and closer to Allah, even if no words are spoken, don't overlook that. Because love that brings you closer to dunya is everywhere. But love that brings you closer to Allah, that's rare, that's special, and that might just be your sign. There's a kind of peace that can't be described, only felt. It's the kind that doesn't come from sweet words or perfect timing or even shared goals. It comes from the soul. And when you're around the right person, the one Allah has written for you, that peace arrives silently. You don't need to impress them. You don't feel like you have to hide parts of yourself. You don't feel judged. You just feel safe. Not in a worldly way, but in the way your heart finally stops running. The way your mind for once doesn't overthink. The way your soul exhales and whispers, this feels right. You could sit in silence with them for hours and still feel full. You could share your fears, your regrets, your imperfections. And instead of pulling away, they bring your pieces back together. Gently, patiently. This isn't chemistry. It's not butterflies. It's sakina, the tranquility Allah promises between two hearts that are connected for His sake. People talk about fireworks, they talk about passion and intensity. But what nobody tells you is that the real sign is calmness. Because love that's from Allah doesn't make your heart race with anxiety. It gives your heart rest. It doesn't push you to rush. It teaches you to trust. And what's even more beautiful, that peace doesn't come just when they speak. It's there even in their silence. in the way they listen, in the way they look at you without judgment, in the way they exist with you in a space, and you don't feel the need to be anyone else. That's rare, because most people can entertain you. Very few can hold space for your soul. The right person won't always know the perfect words to say. They won't always have the solutions, but when life is falling apart and you're sitting beside them, your heart still feels held. And that's not just emotional safety, that's spiritual alignment. Allah puts that peace between the hearts of people who are meant to walk the journey of life together. Not perfectly, but faithfully. Some people bring noise into your life, drama, confusion, doubt. But the one Allah wrote for you will bring clarity. They'll bring silence that comforts instead of suffocates. They'll bring presence, not pressure. And what makes it so divine is that you don't even know how or why it feels so peaceful. You just know. And that knowing doesn't scream. It whispers. You're safe here. That kind of peace is a sign, because your soul recognizes home long before your mind understands what's happening. If you've ever been with someone and your heart felt calm, if you walked away from them feeling more at peace than before, if your anxieties slowed down and your mind softened, don't overlook that. Because love that excites the ego fades quickly. But love that calms the soul, that's a gift. And maybe, just maybe, it's one of the quiet ways Allah is telling you, this is the one. Not with lightning, not with noise, but with peace. Because Allah's most beautiful gifts never arrive with chaos. Some people enter your life and just don't leave. Even when they do, they come back. Not always through messages, not always in direct ways, but in moments, in signs, in timings you never expected. You lose touch, you move on, you even convince yourself that it's over, and then, out of nowhere, there they are again. Not always physically, sometimes just in thought. A memory, a reminder, a dream. And you wonder, why do they keep returning to my heart like this? It's not always obsession. It's not always longing. Sometimes it's Allah. He's not done writing their chapter in your story, so He brings them back, through paths only He can arrange. Random meetings, unplanned conversations, mutual friends. Unexpected places. You keep trying to move forward, but destiny keeps gently pulling you back. Not to hurt you, not to confuse you, but to awaken you to the possibility that this soul is tied to yours in ways you've never understood. The dunya tells you that when something ends, let it go. But your soul knows when something isn't truly finished. And the signs, no matter how subtle, start to build up. You see their name more often. You hear a reminder that matches their struggle. You meet someone who reminds you of them. But it's never quite the same. That's the ache of divine timing. Because Allah doesn't just test you with what's taken away. He tests you with what He keeps returning until you pay attention. Maybe there's a lesson you missed. Maybe there's a prayer you both made that's unfolding in ways you didn't expect. Or maybe they're your test before your blessing. The truth is, when Allah writes two people for each other, no distance, no silence, and no time can completely erase the pull between their souls. You may not see them for months. You may not even speak. But something deeper stays alive. Something even you don't understand, and that something keeps circling back. So if a soul keeps returning into your life in unexplainable ways, don't be quick to label it coincidence. Allah doesn't do random. He does purpose. He does timing. He does mercy. Sometimes in the form of repetition until you finally say, Ya Allah, is this you trying to tell me something? Because when the same heart keeps reappearing, maybe it's not about chasing them. Maybe it's about preparing for them. There are people whose presence you don't fully understand until they're gone. It's not dramatic, it's not loud. It's not the kind of heartbreak the world talks about. It's quieter, like something inside you has shifted and you can't explain why. You try to go about your day. You smile, you work, you pray, but deep down something feels incomplete, like your soul is reaching for something that's not there. And the strange part? It's not even about romance. It's not about missing their words or attention. It's the way their presence added something you didn't even realize was missing. It's in the way they listened without judgment, in the way their silence made your thoughts feel seen, in the way they existed beside you and your world felt more peaceful, more aligned. Then suddenly they're gone, and the world keeps spinning. But you don't feel the same. You start to notice the emptiness, not a physical one, but a soul-level absence. And you realize it wasn't just about who they were, but it was about who you were when they were near. You were softer, more present, more connected to your faith, more hopeful about the future. Their presence didn't complete you, but it brought out the best in you. And now, without them, that part of you feels harder to reach. That's not a coincidence. That's not emotional weakness. That's a sign. Because some souls are tied to yours in a way that defies logic. Not for attachment, but for awakening. They carry something that your soul recognizes, even if your mind can't explain it. And when they're gone, the void they leave isn't just emotional, it's spiritual. You find yourself thinking of them in dua, not out of desperation, but out of genuine care. You ask Allah to protect them, guide them, forgive them, even if you don't know where they are anymore. Because their absence didn't make you bitter. It made you more aware of what a true soul connection feels like. Sometimes the one Allah wrote for you disappears for a while, to teach you something, to help you grow, to let your heart truly understand what it means to miss someone without needing them, but still loving them for the sake of Allah. And when someone's absence teaches you more about yourself, about patience, about faith, that absence isn't empty, it's sacred. So if someone left and the space they left still feels sacred, maybe they weren't just a person, maybe they were a sign that the soul Allah wrote for you has already touched yours. Sometimes the most powerful sign isn't in the person, it's in your du'as. You pray for someone who will love you for the sake of Allah, someone who won't lead you away from your deen but closer to it, someone who listens with their heart, speaks with sincerity, and walks with humility. You raise your hands night after night, asking for something real, and then, slowly, quietly, someone enters your life, not as a grand arrival, not with fireworks, but as an answer you almost didn't notice. They don't check every box on your list, but they begin to reflect what your heart has been asking Allah for. You didn't pray for perfect, you prayed for peace, and their presence feels like that. You realize the traits you begged for in silence now stand in front of you in the form of a soul that feels strangely familiar, and you begin to wonder, was Allah listening all along? Yes, He was, and He still is. Sometimes Allah doesn't just respond to your du'as by giving you something new. He responds by revealing what's already there. You start to look at this person differently, because when you review your old du'as, you see echoes of them everywhere. The patience you asked for, they show it. The gentleness you longed for, it's in their tone. The sincerity you craved, it's in their actions, not just their words. And maybe the most beautiful part is that they don't even know they're an answer. They're just being themselves. But their character aligns with the dua you whispered between tears. The dua you made when your heart was breaking, or when your faith felt weak, or when everyone else seemed temporary. You prayed for someone who would remind you of Allah, and they do, not by preaching but by being. You prayed for a love that would be halal, pure and lasting. And this person makes you want to wait for nikah. Not rush past it. You begin to see them not as a possession but a trust. Someone sent by Allah, not for your ego but for your soul. And as time passes, you stop praying for them to stay and start praying that Allah guides them. Whether or not they stay in your life, that's when you know it's sincere. That's when you know the connection is real. Because true love doesn't start with attraction, it starts with dua. So if someone enters your life and starts to reflect the exact qualities you've been asking Allah for, don't ignore that. Don't dismiss it as coincidence. Because Allah is Al-Mujib, the one who responds. And sometimes He doesn't say yes with words, He says it with a person, a soul you didn't expect, but a soul your heart recognizes. Because your duas have finally started to take shape. And maybe, just maybe, that's your sign. Sometimes the most powerful sign isn't in the person, it's in your duas. You pray for someone who will love you for the sake of Allah. Someone who won't lead you away from your deen but closer to it. Someone who listens with their heart, speaks with sincerity, and walks with humility. You raise your hands night after night, asking for something real. And then, slowly, quietly, someone enters your life, not as a grand arrival, not with fireworks, but as an answer you almost didn't notice. They don't check every box on your list, but they begin to reflect what your heart has been asking Allah for. You didn't pray for perfect, you prayed for peace, and their presence feels like that. You realize the traits you begged for in silence now stand in front of you in the form of a soul that feels strangely familiar. And you begin to wonder, was Allah listening all along? Yes, He was, and He still is. Sometimes Allah doesn't just respond to your duas by giving you something new. He responds by revealing what's already there. You start to look at this person differently, because when you review your old duas, you see echoes of them everywhere. The patience you asked for, they show it. The gentleness you longed for, it's in their tone. The sincerity you craved, it's in their actions, not just their words. And maybe the most beautiful part is that they don't even know they're an answer, they're just being themselves. But their character aligns with the dua you whispered between tears. The dua you made when your heart was breaking, or when your faith felt weak, or when everyone else seemed temporary. You prayed for someone who would remind you of Allah, and they do, not by preaching but by being. You prayed for a love that would be halal, pure and lasting, and this person makes you want to wait for nikah, not rush past it. You begin to see them not as a possession but a trust. Someone sent by Allah, not for your ego but for your soul. And as time passes, you stop praying for them to stay and start praying that Allah guides them, whether or not they stay in your life. That's when you know it's sincere. That's when you know the connection is real. Because true love doesn't start with attraction, it starts with dua. So if someone enters your life and starts to reflect the exact qualities you've been asking Allah for, don't ignore that. Don't dismiss it as coincidence. Because Allah is Al-Mujib, the one who responds. And sometimes, He doesn't say yes with words, He says it with a person, a soul you didn't expect, but a soul your heart recognizes because your duas that have finally started to take shape. And maybe, just maybe, that's your sign. Some souls don't need words. They don't need long explanations or deep conversations to connect. They just understand. You look at them and they already know what you're feeling. You say, "I'm fine," and they gently respond, "No, you're not." They hear the silence in your voice. They see the pain you try to hide, and they sit with it without demanding you explain it. That kind of connection is rare, and it's not built on time. It's built on alignment. Two hearts that speak the same language even when their lips say nothing at all. You finish each other's thoughts. You both laugh at the same moment, even when no one else finds it funny. You know when to give space and when to stay close. Without needing to ask. It's not magic, it's not luck. It's a kind of emotional tawfiq, a blessing from Allah that allows two souls to recognize each other's rhythm. This isn't about being soul twins in a fantasy way. It's about spiritual chemistry and a kind of connection where you don't have to force understanding. It flows naturally, peacefully, and that's when you realize they get you in a way no one else ever has. Not because they tried harder, but because Allah wrote their heart to be soft where yours needed support. So if you've met someone who understands your silence better than others understand your words, don't take it lightly. That level of understanding isn't common. It's sacred. And it might just be a sign that their soul was created to walk with yours. You didn't plan it. You didn't chase it. You weren't even looking for it. But somehow, things just started to align. Your paths cross more often. Your goals begin to look similar. You want the same things, not because you copied each other, but because your souls are heading in the same direction. You don't feel the need to force conversations, or pressure plans, or rush timelines, because somehow life begins to flow around this connection. Naturally, you both start making better choices, not out of fear of losing each other, but because this connection inspires growth, not guilt. You're not trying to impress them, you're trying to become the version of yourself Allah already destined you to be. And they're doing the same. You don't have to pretend you're something you're not. They see you, and they accept you. And slowly, your du'as, your habits, your hopes begin to mirror each other's hearts. It's like Allah is gently rearranging your life to make space for someone He knows is meant to walk with you. And the most beautiful part? There's no pressure to make it happen, no games, no anxiety, no chasing. Because when it's written, you don't have to force it, you just have to trust it. Doors start to open, signs begin to appear. You hear reminders that feel like they were meant for the two of you. And your heart doesn't feel confused, it feels calm. That calmness, that ease, that flow of barakah without chaos. It's a gift, a sign that Allah is allowing two lives to move in sync, without noise, without force, without fear, just trust. Because when your life begins to align with theirs without you trying to control it, it might be Allah's way of saying, this soul was always part of your path. Maybe you've already met your soulmate, but you were too distracted to notice. Or maybe they entered your life and left because you weren't both ready yet. But here's the truth. What's written for your soul will never miss it. Not because of time. Not because of distance, not even because of mistakes. Allah knows the moment your heart will be ready. And He knows the exact second two souls will align, not in chaos, but in peace. So if you're waiting, don't rush. If you're hurting, don't lose hope. And if you're healing, don't give up. Every delay, every silence, every unanswered dua, it's part of the divine timing that writes love in the most beautiful way. Because when Allah writes a love story, it doesn't just touch your heart, it transforms your soul. So when that person finally comes, you'll know, not by fireworks, but by sukoon, by a calm, quiet certainty, that this is not just love, it's mercy. And until then, prepare your heart, because maybe, just maybe, your soulmate is praying for you too, right now. If this message touched your heart, don't let it end here. There's someone out there praying for the same peace you seek. So share this video. You never know who needs it today. And if you felt something real, something deep, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more soul-healing reminders rooted in faith. Your journey is just beginning, and we're here to walk it with you. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss the signs Allah might be sending, right when you need them most.